Welcome to WorldShakers. It's Friday. Happy Friday to you. This program started with the idea of me having great conversations with people that know what they're talking about. And I remember being at a wedding and the person that was getting married was running late. And so me and Magic Johnson took a little walk and we were talking about fascinating things. And I said, wow, things that I learned from people who know. And so WorldShakers is getting secrets from people that are doing very, very well in life. And today I'm going to call you my friend, Bob Burg. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Tim, it's great to see you.
And so, Bob, for those of us that are paying attention on this planet, you have been making big waves for a very long time. I've been a fan at a distance and kept seeing your face around in different conferences, seeing your books being advertised, seeing your books in the different various bookstores, and you are having a very, very nice run. So let me just give some official things. Bob speaks at corporations and associations internationally and in America, including Fortune 500 companies, franchises, and numerous direct sales organizations. And your audiences, you go anywhere from 50 people, which is generous of you, all the way to 16,000 people. And he helps leaders, athletes, and just people who want to live a better life. And you have written a book called Endless Referrals, okay? And that's a book that's done very, very well. And then also The Go-Giver, which my understanding, it has been in many, many, many translations now all over the world. It says 21 languages here, but it might be even more by now.
A little bit.
And from outside people, it's just recognized as one of the top motivational speakers in the world and just one of the most influential people we have on the planet. So it is a privilege to have you.
Well, coming from you, Tim, that's just a heck of a compliment. Thank you so very much.
Okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about, I want to start with your childhood. I do this whether if I'm talking to Quincy Jones or Justin Timberlake, whoever I'm talking to. Bob, when you were, let's say, 10, 11, 12, what was Bob Burg thinking about possibly becoming?
Oh, I knew what I wanted to become. I wanted to become the third baseman for the Boston Red Sox. And I could have done it, Tim. I lacked just one thing, and that was any semblance of talent. Other than that, man, I was the guy for the job.
Okay, so why the Red Sox?
Oh, I grew up in a suburb of Boston, about 20 minutes outside of Boston. So that was, everything a young boy back then lived, breathed, slept. It was Red Sox. I
was a third baseman in Little League. And my favorite was a guy who played against the Red Sox from Baltimore named Brooks Robinson.
Oh, I saw Brooks at Fenway Park, or is correctly pronounced Fenway Park, many, many times. I saw Brooks Robinson make a rare error at Fenway Park, and that was really something because Brooks Robinson didn't make errors.
No, his fundamentals were out of this.
Oh, my goodness.
So tell me a little bit about growing up on the East Coast. Did you live with your mother and your father?
Yeah, very blessed to have two wonderful parents.
Okay.
They both came from very poor backgrounds, especially my dad, the real, immigrant American tenement slum type of background, growing up in the Depression and just wonderful people. And, I got to really, they just celebrated their 62nd anniversary. And they showed me what it's like really to just be a person. And so I got to really have that growing up, which was very helpful.
Brothers and sisters?
Older brother, younger sister.
Okay. So junior, senior year in high school, which are pivotal years. I work a lot with young people. I just spoke 3 weeks ago at Compton High School. Oh. And that's such an interesting time, junior, senior year of what's next. Right. And we find that a lot of high school students, when they get out, they're not so sure. And I think you would agree with this. If you don't do something with life, life will do something with you. Oh. Junior, senior year, what were you thinking about doing?
Well, I was not a good student. and I did not like school at all. I did not want to go to college, yet you struggle with the, that's what you're supposed to do next and that sort of thing. I graduated high school barely. In fact, my guidance counselor on graduation day actually said to me, Burg, I can't believe I'm actually seeing you here today. And he was a nice guy. I mean, that doesn't sound like it was the nicest thing to say, but you'd have to know. I mean, really, I don't blame him.
It's so funny because fast forward, you're going to sell about 1 million books and travel all over the world. And I've seen you. I mean, people wait in line for you to sign things. He didn't see that coming.
You know what's interesting? I didn't really become a student until after I was out of college. I took a year off after high school. I got into a very, very small college. In fact, I got into college on academic probation, which is not a big deal. Many people do that, but I actually graduated on academic probation. I mean, that's how bad it was.
Yes.
After I got out of college, and I began as a broadcaster, first on radio and then on television for about 1.5 years, 2 years. Was not very good at it. I was the late night news anchor for a small ABC affiliate. Knew nothing about the news and didn't care. I wanted to be a sportscaster, and I was just in news. I think I was probably, though, even intuitively too positive for the medium, Tim. My idea of a good opening would have been something like, good evening, everyone, in the news tonight. Everything's great. Should have been. We'll let you know if something comes up. So I soon found myself not in TV, and I graduated into sales. The challenge was I knew nothing about sales. So I floundered for a while.
Yes.
And then I went to a bookstore. This is almost 40 years ago now. This is back when bookstores were most known for selling books as opposed to coffee and other things. And I saw books on sales, and Tom Hopkins and Zig Ziglar and these, but I started studying them, and all of a sudden, and applying the information, because you can't just study it, can't just learn it. And you teach this, you've got to go out there and do it. And my sales went through the roof, and it said to me, hey, when there's a system for something, and to this day, I define a system as simply the process of predictably achieving a goal based on
I like that. That's very, very powerful. So let me just take you there for a minute.
Okay.
As you know, some things you decide, some things you discover. Okay.
Right.
All right. So now you have discovered that as far as academically, you're smart, but as a student, maybe that's not you. Right.
Right.
So all of a sudden, you get into this thing, broadcasting. Okay. The broadcasting side, was it enjoyable? Did you ever see it going somewhere? Did you think, someday I might be Harry Carey? What was happening during the broadcasting time?
I kind of enjoyed it and kind of did. It wasn't really what I felt like I was called to do. After a while, I just saw it was something that, I saw that it wasn't going to be my path is kind of what happened.
See, that's interesting.
Yeah. And what happened was with sales, see, as you know, part of sales is the personal development aspect. It's not just the how-to sales aspect.
Yeah.
I started to read books such as How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, and, Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. My world started to change. I started growing on the inside, and success began manifesting on the outside. But I began to be a student. I just loved to read and to study and to learn.
Powerful. Okay, so Bob, at this stage, about what age were you?
Mid to late 20s when it really started to happen.
Okay.
And then early 30s before, financially it started to come together a little bit more. So there was a lot of learning first and a lot of growing and a lot of seeing areas where I really needed to improve myself. I was going to say kind of improve myself, but kind of wouldn't be the right word.
Yeah, so this is good to a lot of our followers. We have followers, 75 countries of the world I've been to, and so many of them are young, and they're getting very frustrated because they're like, hey, Tim Storey, I'm already 22. What am I going to do? The reality, though, Bob, you started to find really what your plan was later in your 20s, okay? Mm-hmm. And part of it was from education and observation, the education of reading these books and then bringing that greatness out of you?
Yeah, I mean, it was really, and it's really interesting too, Tim, because I think about when you're talking about, your viewers 21 and 22, and if I had one thing, it's those things, if you could go back and say something to your younger self type of thing, what would that one thing be? And there's often not one thing, but there is kind of one thing here. I would have said, Burg, just shut up and listen, because you don't know anything what you think. It reminds me of that saying. It's attributed to Mark Twain, but he never actually said this, but it's attributed to him, and it sounds really Twainian, so it's easy to believe he would have said it. And that is, it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you're absolutely positive you do know that just ain't so. And that was me at 21, 22. I was sure I had it figured out, and I did not. And so if you're in your 20s, you just learn, keep learning. Don't worry about the money. The money you have to make, and so that's fine. But just learn and just drink it all in. And as you get into your 30s, it will start to happen, and it can happen younger.
Oh, yeah.
But just learn and be grateful for having the opportunity to learn. And yeah.
Okay, so I know a lot about our listeners and the people that follow us. So they like to know what it feels like to do well. So I get to interview different people. So let's say Eric Dickerson, Hall of Fame football player, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Eric, what did it feel like the year that you broke that record for the most yards? What did it feel like? Did you feel like your life was completely together? And it's amazing how many guys will say, Tim, I felt together in some areas of my life, but other areas of my life were still undone. Okay. So Bob, you've had a lot of amazing years. Okay. So when you have been at what we would consider the top, okay, did you still feel undone in some areas of your life? Please tell us about this.
I would say, thank you, Eric Dickerson. You said it perfectly. And, for the successes that I've had so many more failures than I've had successes.
Okay.
Who hasn't? I mean, to get somewhere, you've just got to have these failures. As long as you're doing it, the right way. It doesn't mean you don't get discouraged. Of course you get discouraged. It doesn't mean sometimes you don't want to give up. Of course you want to give up. I think sometimes in the personal development genre, if you will, there's almost a political correctness that you're always feeling great about everything. No, you have fears and you have concerns and self-doubts and all these things. The key is just keep moving forward anyway. Keep learning, keep on trying, keep on making the effort, get off the ground and keep going. But I think we all, maybe not all, I don't want to say all because who knows, but I have fears. I have concerns. I have all these things that, and you just do it anyway.
I love it. Okay, I'm going to throw out 4 words to you, okay?
Okay.
Number 1, the plan, principles, the problem, the prosperity. What is the plan? How do we get to the plan? What do you teach about the plan? Because you're very organized. Material that I read on you, some of our researchers, before I know I was going to interview you, you're very good at being strategic and how to make a company work. When I say the plan, what do you say about the plan?
I think it begins with determining what it is you want to be. What is your desire? What is your desire? What is it that you really want to do? What just fills you up with joy, and what value do you feel you can bring to the world? Now, there's a saying, and like many old sayings, it's half right. Okay. And so and that's just go with your passion and the money will follow. Again, half right.
Half right. Yeah.
Okay. I do believe, sure, you of course you want to tap into your passion and you want to go with your passion. And there's been a movement now to say, no, passion isn't important. Just do the work, your passion will come. No. Well, I'm not saying no. They have their reasons too for saying that, I'm sure. My opinion is, of course you want to be passionate about what you're doing. You want to feel great about it. In fact, but passion alone without a marketplace to serve is a hobby. Okay. So you've got to find a way to take what you love and what you're good at or skills you can develop. Okay. I couldn't be a third baseman for the Boston Red Sox, but I could have been a broadcaster had I, or a baseball executive had I gone that path. So we take away to find what we love, what we just are passionate about, and then find a way to bring value to the marketplace. So it's not just a hobby, it's also your work. It's also what you're doing. So that's where I think the follow your passion, great, but we've also got to connect it with a plan. And that's where the plan comes in.
One of my favorite answers of all time you just gave on the plan. I'm not kidding. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And even, Bob, about then bringing value, because you've got your plan, but then how then do we bring value to the marketplace?
Right, exactly.
Okay. I like this. Okay. So number one is plan. So Bob, number two, when you think of the word principles, it took you certain principles. I mean, your backdrop is all those books. Okay. So you're obviously a reader, you're a studier, you're working out certain principles. Why are principles important to get to what I will later take you into, that place of prosperity? Why are the principles important to Bob Burg?
In a sense, there are two different principles involved, and they both mesh. One is the principles in terms of way of doing a certain thing. There are universal laws and principles. There are principles of human nature. There are principles. Okay. Then there are those principles that we live our lives by. And you think of people with character, and character, high character is one of the most influential ways of being, right? Yes. And when you think, character comes from an old Greek word meaning to scrape or scratch. It came to mean an engraved marking and eventually a defining quality. If one were to wax poetic, one could say that character is what happens when life etches or scratches itself onto your soul. Yes. But we could also say character is simply the sum total of all one's traits, okay? People of high character, it's not that they don't make mistakes. Of course they do. It's not that they don't course correct. Absolutely they do. And it's not that they're not flexible on strategy. Sure they are. But here's the thing. They're flexible on strategy. But when it comes to those values-based decisions, they are immovable, immutable, and unchangeable. We know what they stand for, and we know they stand for something.
Okay, now we're beginning to see why Bob Burg is being invited all over the world and getting crowds up to 16,000. That's some phenomenal information. This whole idea of character scratched in, etched in, into your fiber. I've always said this. I said, if you're a young person and you're working at a fast food place and you don't want to be there because it's so common, like, get me through this. This is my job. I want to check in and check out. And I always say, if you're making me a gordita, do it the best you can. If you take care of the Chihuahua, take care of the best you can. Mm-hmm. Bob, tell the young people how important it is to prosper where you're planted. Doggone it, do the best you can where you're at.
These are our habits. Okay. Principle-based, character-based habits that will serve you for the rest of your life. What you want to do, and Wallace D. Wattles talked about this in his 1915 book, The Science of Getting Rich, one of the best books I've ever read. And we say rich, it's about rich in all areas of your life, because as we know, success can be measured in all different ways. There's financial, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, social, relational, all sorts of ways. This book he made some great points. And one is just look for ways to bring more value to every situation. What you'll do is you'll work yourself to that next position. Now, that doesn't mean at that place you'll get a raise. That doesn't mean you may or may not. But what it means is you'll start communicating yourself. You'll position yourself as a person of value to everyone whose lives you touch. I say to young people, when you're working, maybe you work detailing cars, maybe you work in a pizza restaurant, what have you. When a couple or a man or a woman comes into the place to sit down, please do not say, how you doing? No, it's good morning, or it's good afternoon, or it's good evening. Welcome. When they thank you, do not say no problem. Instead, it's my pleasure.
Wow.
Get into these little habits. When you apply for a job, send a handwritten thank you note to the person who interviewed you. Yeah. Not a text, not a handwritten note. Powerful. And not only is this impressive to others because they see, and what Wallace Wattles called it was being too big for your place. And what he talked about is any organism, any plant, animal, what have you, will always get to that next level by being too big for their place. And you can see stories, and there's tons of them. Some of my favorite stories are from people who they started working in a certain, just like you were talking about, and they just did everything. One, Kat Coles, worked when she was 17 years old. She's working in a restaurant as a host, and what she started doing was, if they needed help cleaning in the kitchen, she would clean. She'd wash dishes. She'd help bus tables. Next year, she's now waiting tables, but she's also doing everything else. Well, this place ends up having her now train others. This place ends up sending her all over the place. First time, she's now president of Focus Brands, which owns what is the Cinnabons and a whole bunch of other franchises. This because at 17 years old, she made herself too big for her current place, just like Wallace Wattles talked about.
Working out the principles. Okay, let's take a little commercial break, Bob. I want to find out how our viewers can get in touch with you. What's happening right now? Are you doing any online courses? Do you have any seminars coming up? A new book? Tell us two things that you're excited about and how we can connect with you.
Okay, well, we just released a new book in the Go Giver series. I have a wonderful co-author, John David Mann, who's a brilliant writer and story. He's the lead writer. You know, I'm step one, step two, step three. He's an amazing writer. So we have the Go Giver series, and the Go Giver is a business parable. And we just released the Go Giver Influencer. Hey. Which we're very excited about. So if someone would like to get the first two chapters of either of those books, any of my books, they can go to The Go Giver, without the hyphen, thegogiver.com, and they'll see the books right there. They can click on it, and we'll take them to a page where they can get the first two chapters to read. Other than that, we're just, my business partner, Kathy Tajanel, I have a brilliant business partner, and she really runs the company and frees me up to do the, those few things I do well, right? And she's the reason I can do those. And so we have various courses, and we're now in development with some people, to develop some other online courses that we'll be releasing in the next few months. So it's exciting.
Very, very, very nice. Okay. All right. So we're putting that all online for you, and we need to tap into what you're saying. You've got years of this. How many years have you been in this space of what you're teaching on now?
Oh gosh, it's got to be between 27 and 30 years or so.
And after a while, you learn a little bit what to do and what not to do, right?
Yeah, and like anything else, when I was first starting, I tapped into those who were doing it successfully, and I learned from them. Again, I learned a system for doing so.
And so we'll be pushing you all day, letting people know how to get in touch with you. And it's, Bob, it's a privilege to have you on.
Tim, you are so awesome. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. So the word plan, principles, talk to me about problems. We all have them. We all go through them. Sometimes we have what I call life interruptions. We're just going through life, and maybe our wife gets ill, or people have relationship challenges. Life interruptions in your life, just in a nutshell, how have you been able to handle a life interruption?
I think there are certain problems that we can sort of just go through them. Yeah. Other ones really hit us where we live, and it's just not easy. And again, that's where anyone who has these things happen and you feel you've kind of just gotten knocked down and you're having trouble getting up, please don't think you're the only one. Happens to all. Well, again, I say all of us, but I don't mean all, because some it doesn't. But to me, it does. Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Sometimes it's not a matter of of being able to even deal with it effectively and put it aside, you just kind of plow right through. It goes back to fears, right? That we often, I remember my dad always saying to me when I was growing up, he said, who is brave? And the answer was that person who is smart enough to be afraid and still do their job.
Yes. Ooh.
And, is it always appropriate to be afraid? No. But when it is appropriate to be afraid, but it's also appropriate to continue to go forward, that's what you do. And it's the same with problems.
I like what you're saying about the problems, because it's so honest that they don't just go away. And in the world of Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat, it's so easy for people to watch, and it looks like everybody's life is so glamorous.
Right.
I'm in my boat. I'm in my car. I'm with beautiful people. I'm on a beautiful vacation, but they're not talking about their ailments and things are hurting, or they're feeling arthritis coming on. And I really think it's so important to let people know that sometimes we have things that are undone, but that's okay.
Right. Exactly. And I think, and when I see people in business sometimes who quit too early because they got told no a bunch of times and they got discouraged. Yeah. And I've got to tell you, I don't think people quit because they're told no. I think they quit because they think they're the only ones being told no. Wow. They look at the people who've accomplished all these great things, or walking across the stages of the world at company conventions, or doing all these amazing things, and they think, oh, they just did it. They got in and they had it easy and they just happened to be. No.
Yes.
No.
All right.
So as long as we know going in that no is a part of the process. I love my friends, Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton wrote this great book. It's a little parable called Go for No. And the premise is, yes is the destination. No is how you get there. And they totally reframe the idea.
Go for no.
Yeah, goforno.com is their site. And it's so cool because they reframe the whole idea. It takes it takes that feeling of, well, people tell me no, it must not be for me. No, if people are telling you no, just keep going, because that's part of the game.
Okay. Bob, you're on your game today.
Oh, thank you, Tim.
All right. So we got the plan, we got the principles, we got the problems. I got one more for you.
Okay.
Prosperity. But I want you to take your time on this. What does it feel like to have a little more financial leverage than you've had in the past? Okay. So I'll give give one story from my life. I remember one time I was in Chicago, and it had been snowing. We had a layover. And so they changed planes, and they told me I was going to be in a center seat. I do not like the center seat. I'm a little bit claustrophobic. So the previous flight I was on, I had upgraded myself to first class because I've flown millions of miles on American Airlines. But now they changed flights, Bob. Mm-hmm. So they said, you're going to be in the center seat. And I was being really nice to the lady. And I said, I'm a little claustrophobic. Can we find me something else? And she said, no. And then she said, you will be in the center seat. And then I said, Miss, do you have anything in first class? Because I was in first class. And she said, yes, but it's going to cost you $688. But literally, I was going from Chicago to here. It was almost like Chicago to Milwaukee or something like that. But I was just dreading the middle seat. One of the things that I like about having more money is that I could say, I'll take that seat. And upgrade myself from the center middle of being cramped like I was most of my childhood to now sit in first class and have breathing room.
Right.
I don't need a Lamborghini. I just need more space. Mm-hmm. What's prosperity to you?
Oh, that's it. It's choice. It's choice. Prosperity. People say, well, money isn't everything. You still hear people say that. I'm always amazed when I hear people as though they're sharing some, ancient wisdom that few people know. Of course, money isn't everything. Money simply gives us choices. It allows us to do that which we ordinarily would not be able to do. It's choices. See, I'm like you. I don't need all the big things. I'm a convenience person, and I want to, and so, but we all relate to different things differently. Some people, they want this, and if they have money, they're able to get it, and that makes them feel good about themselves, and that's fantastic, because as my feeling is, do what you feel like doing, so long as you don't infringe the rights of anybody else to do the same, right?
Yes.
And that's wonderful. To me, prosperity simply means choice.
Wow.
To the degree that you have choices, that's the degree to which you are prosperous.
Okay, people love me to ask this question. What is something that you feel like you've splurged on? You said, wow, I did okay. To some, it's maybe a vacation in Italy. For some, it's to buy a vehicle or a house. Give me a Bob splurge.
Oh my gosh. I wish I had something. I'm not really a things person. I don't need to give me my books, and I'm happy. I mean, I have a great, I have a great Rolex watch that I bought cash because I could, and because I speak on stage, and they got blah, blah, blah. Okay, I guess that would be it. But I don't even think about it.
I'm loving this because I was at the mall 2 days ago in Los Angeles, and it was 3 athletes who pulled up 2 Lamborghinis and then something that looked like a Lamborghini. Okay. You could tell they were athletes. Okay. They were lean, they were svelte, they were stars, and they pulled up to a famous mall in LA, and they came. Why couldn't at least 2 of them drive together? No, they wanted to show their cars off, right? I remember how they got out, then they had chains and they had everything. So that was like their big splurges. But some of us, we're not made for that.
No, it's really, Harry Brown, who was a hero of mine, used to say that as different as people are, there's one thing we all have, and that is everyone seeks happiness, which would be defined as the mental feeling of well-being.
Okay.
But the second part of that is happiness is relative.
Yes.
So we all see happiness we experience happiness differently. What brings happiness to one person would be absolutely meaningless to someone else, or would even cause them unhappiness. The third part of that is resources are limited. Now, that's not to say that's not about lack. We obviously live in an abundant universe. No, it just means that as human beings, we have a limited amount of time, energy, knowledge, money, what have you. So every decision we make during the day, and we make lots and lots and lots of decisions, most of them unconscious, some consciously, every decision has to do with whether we believe that doing this or that will bring us closer to happiness based on how we see happiness.
Yes.
And within those choices that we have to make.
Yes.
But as human beings, we all operate from our own belief system, right? Our own way of seeing the world, our own subjective truth. And we tend to think that most people see the world the way we see the world. How could it be anything different, right? That's why you hear people say things like, oh, everybody likes that, right?
Yeah.
Or no one would want that. Or even, I would never treat someone that way. No, because it's not congruent with your values, with your
beautiful thinking. I mean that. I'm talking to Bob Burg. This is WorldShakers. Bob, tell us one more time. You're telling us that we can get 2 chapters of your book for free?
Yeah, really from any of my books, but I would suggest probably the Go Giver series, the first one being the Go Giver, and the last one, the one that's out now that was released last week, is the Go Giver Influencer.
Okay, can you tell us again how to do that?
Sure. It's The Go Giver without the hyphen, thegogiver.com. And on the homepage, the books will come right out. Just click on whichever books you want to read the first couple of chapters of.
Okay, so last thing is we give our guests a chance to ask me any question they'd like. Anywhere from what's it like to have an afro, or what was it like to be raised in Compton, or who's my favorite athlete, just anything you want to ask that comes to mind that you want to ask the host.
Okay. I would go with, if you had a chance, and you've heard this question before, certainly, but I always love this question, and I'd love to know if you had a chance to have a 1-hour dinner with someone, or a 2-hour dinner with someone, who would that be? And it could be from anyone, anywhere, anytime in history.
Yeah, I would say it this present moment, Richard Branson. And I'm going to tell you why. Because he has been so resilient from being in the industry of writing in the early days as a teenager, then going into the telecommunication field, going into the record mute business, going into airlines, now wanting to take people to space, and having so many setbacks, but yet at the same time, he's living life. If you watch him, he looks alive. He looks vibrant. He's going for it. So I would really like to sit down and find out about how he maintains that type of mindset and that type of energy.
Yeah. I mean, he just seems to be a happy person. He really does. Yeah, that's wonderful.
And with so much responsibility.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
All right. So Bob Burg is who we're talking to, best-selling author, just doing fantastic things with sharing with all of us about how to get successful in so many areas of our life. This has been one of my favorite interviews on WorldShakers.
Thank you.
And I truly, truly am thankful for the gift God gave you to bring to us. There's so many people that watch me and watch you that are so hungry to get to that next place. But you're teaching us today it's okay to be undone. It's a process, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're all working through something, and that's okay.
Absolutely ongoing process.
Yes. So thank you for being with us today, Bob.
Tim,
and
thank
we'll
you so
see
much.
you on the road. Hopefully we're doing a conference together real soon.
Absolutely. I hope so.
Okay. Have a great, great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
You too. Bye-bye.